For today's project, you're going to need to download this cute little picture of a tooth from marthastewart.com. It's a free download, and this will be what you use for your pocket. You're welcome to draw your own tooth, but I'm going to use this one. You're also going to need some felt or some white fabric to make the tooth out of, a pattern for the pillow shape, some stuffing, thread and a needle, some fabric for the pillow, which we've got right here, and some scissors, and if you want to, a Sharpie, if you want to trace the tooth onto your fabric. The first thing I'm going to do is to cut out my tooth. Now you can cut out the tooth first and then trace around it to cut out. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pin the whole paper on there and make sure it's on the actual fabric. And then I'm going to cut it out. If you don't have pins, you can use safety pins, or you can just do the method where you trace it. All right, so I'm going to get started cutting. All right, I've got my tooth cut out, and I'm going to take the pins out. And ta-da! I've got my tooth shape all ready to go. I'm going to set my pattern aside. I'm going to get my fabric. I found some really neat Nintendo Mario fabric, Smash Bros fabric, and I'm going to use that for my pillow. Here's my pattern. Now what I've got to make sure of is that I have enough for the front and the back of my pillow. So see, I've got the inside there, I've got the outside. You can trace around it if you want to, like this. Or you can pin it on. But just remember, you're going to have to cut two. The front and the back. So I'm pinning it on there. Then I've got my scissors, and I'm going to start cutting it out. I've got my pillow cut out. I've got my two sides. So there's my front and my back. When we're ready to sew, we're going to put the front sides together. And we'll see in a minute why we're doing that. But we want to sew our tooth on before we sew the two pieces together. All right, so I'm going to get my needle and my thread. And I'm going to pull my thread out about the length of my arm, from my fingertips to my shoulder. So I've got that cut. Now I'm going to thread my needle. It's okay if it takes you several tries, or if you need some help. There we go. I got mine threaded. I'm going to fold it in half. Then I'm going to tie a knot on the end. Okay, once you've got that knot tied and your needle threaded, it's time to start sewing. I'm going to use a running stitch. So I'm going to come up from the bottom and go down from the top. And guess what? You want to keep your stitches close together so your tooth doesn't fall out. Now guess what? Guess what this part is? That's going to be your pocket. So when you sew, don't sew right there, or you won't have a pocket for your tooth to go in. And I'm going to just keep going all the way around my tooth. Here I am coming to the end of my tooth. Don't forget, you're going to leave that top part as your pocket for your tooth to go in. Now, since this is my last stitch, I want to make sure it's nice and secure. So I'm going to go around the back and I'm just going to sew in the same spot. Probably about 2 times. Okay, and then I am going to cut my thread right close to the needle. See that? Then I'm going to tie a couple of knots there so that your stitches don't come out. If you run out of thread in the middle of making sewing around your pillow, around your tooth, you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to stop it, cut your thread, and make some knots. There we go. I'm going to cut my loose thread. And look, we got the front part of our pillow. Got our tooth all ready to put our actual tooth in. All right. Now here's the other part of your pillow. This will be the back. And we're going to put that wrong side up. Do you see that? That's so when you turn your pillow inside, right side out, it's going to look like that. It's going to have a smooth edge to it. All right. And then once again, I'm going to pin it just so it doesn't slide around while I'm sewing. And I'm going to take my needle and my thread. Oh, there's the end of it. I'm going to draw it out from my fingers to my shoulder. Cut it. Thread it. Double it over. Then I'm going to tie a knot on the end. All right, I've got it tied. See my knot? And here's my needle. And we're going to do the same thing that we did on the tooth. We're going to go up and down all the way around. So I'm going to keep doing that and we'll come back and see what's next. Getting to the end of my pillow, guess what we have to leave here at the end? Guess what? A pocket. We've got to leave a pocket, a gap or a pocket so that we can turn this right side out. If we don't, we won't be able to turn it. And our poor little tooth will be stuck on the inside. Don't forget here that you're going to do small stitches all the way around. If you don't do that, your stuffing's going to come out. All right, I'm getting to the end here. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the tooth. I'm going to go back in and come back out. Go back in. Then I'm going to flip over here and I am going to cut it and tie a knot. Okay, I'm going to cut it and tie a nice double knot. There's 1 and 2. And I'm going to cut this here. Now before I try to turn it, I need to take my pins out. Okay, here we go. I'll take it. Push it back through the hole. I'm going to kind of pull right here. And to get the corners out, you can use a pen or you can use your fingers. See, I'm kind of poking that corner there. Ooh, that's basically what our pillow's gonna look like. But we're gonna go ahead and stuff it. Take some of my stuffing and just start putting it in. If you don't have stuffing, you can use some old fabric. You can use cotton balls. See, I'm taking some old, what's called batting, and I'm tearing it into pieces and putting it in there. And as you go, you'll probably have to use that pin again to push that stuffing all the way down to corners. I'm going to keep stuffing it now. Okay, I'm getting close to the end of my stuffing here. You can stuff it as much or as little as you want to. Depends on how fluffy you want it. And you can leave this beside your pillow or beside your bed, so the tooth fairy will know where to get the tooth and put the money. All right, we're down at the end. Guess what we have to do now? If you guessed get more thread and sew the end, you're right. Now this is where you can do a different stitch if you want to. You're going to fold it in. You're going to start sewing. Now, I'm going to try a different stitch called a whip stitch. And what that is, instead of going up and down, you're going to go around. See how I'm doing that? Okay, so instead of going up and down, I'm going around. See how it's starting to look? That gives it a finished edge, but you can do it the other way too. When you get to the end of doing your whip stitch, you're going to do the same thing you did before, except sideways. We're going to do lots of stitches right on top of each other. Then we're going to cut our thread. And make that knot. Okay, once I've got my double knot tied, look what we got. We got our tooth pillow. Good job, guys. And of course, if you have a sewing machine, you can also sew the edges with a sewing machine. And here we have our tooth fairy pillow. You guys did a great job making this today. And now it's ready to go for you to set beside your bed or beside your pillow. Put that tooth in and get the money out the next morning from the tooth fairy. Thanks for joining us. Bye.